Hey guys, it is time to talk about everything or the three things we read in the month of February. Hey guys, if you are new here, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. So February, once again, was another kind of slumpy reading month. We are not starting out 2026 strong. It was a shorter month. We had a few things going on at school we needed to do, and of course, when winter break rolled around, which was a week-long vacation for the kiddos, one of the kiddos decided to bring home a lovely little germ with him, and we all got sick again. I mean, not his fault, obviously. I felt horrible that, they were missing, I think my oldest missed his little Valentine's Day party at school, so I felt bad that he missed that, and then we all were sick, pretty much the whole week. So not a lot of reading going on, especially when it is a shorter month. But we are all on the mend. Cough comes and goes a little bit. Now it's kind of like playing is it still the cold or the leftovers of the cold, or is it allergies? Because allergy season is here too. So it's fantastic. But good side news is that I know I just said that my oldest missed out on his Valentine's Day party. When he got back to school, he was able to give out his Valentines to his classmates and get his little party bag that they had. So he's still able to get what he needed. He just wasn't there on the day that they did it. But that is your update for what is going on in our household. But let's get into the 3 books that I read for the month of February. All 3 of these were ARCs given to me in exchange for, obviously my honest opinions. And let's go ahead and get into them. So first up, we read Beast by Serena Knights. This is basically the story of a young girl who is going off to the San Francisco area for college, and she's going kind of I know it's at least her mother is an alumni of the school. I don't know if her father is. But she's going to go join up the sorority that her mother is the alumni for, and she gets there, and these girls are absolutely horrendous to her within the first few minutes. She can't take it. She grabs her suitcase before she's even really unpacked, leaves the sorority, has no idea what she's going to do because she doesn't want to go home and kind of be that protected child for her parents. She wants to grow up. She wants to do things on her own. So she's trying to figure out a way to go and do these things when she is approached by 2 young men who kind of take pity on her situation and offer her a room to stay in their fraternity. This is not like other fraternities or the fraternities you would possibly think of. This is a pseudo frat house for a bunch of guys who are supernatural or paranormal creatures. And she does not know this yet. She knows there's something kind of different about them when she gets into the house, but she thinks everybody's really nice, and obviously it's a room for the night, and it is what it is. So she finds out pretty quickly that she is in a house of paranormal, creatures, and she starts to form a crush or romantic attraction to this guy who kind of lives in the attic room. And she doesn't realize what type of paranormal creature it is until after she's had these feelings for him. And she finds out that he's a vampire, and she is deathly afraid of vampires due to something that happened to her in her childhood. So the story is really this girl trying to overcome her fear of vampires, the vampire trying to, he's basically half vampire, and he's trying to overcome the feelings of, if I'm around other people, I get kind of bloodlust and I don't want to, have these things. So they're kind of partnering up to overcome these while practicing for a musical that is going on at the school. Amongst all this other kind of chaos, you have the sorority just is, for whatever reason, upset that she left them, and they just won't let it go. So they kind of keep doing a few things, and you have this kind of underlying thing of who owns the house and what rules he has, and he is not a fan of humans knowing their secrets. So what will happen to the girl? I ended up giving this 2 stars. It was what it was. I think it had an interesting idea and it could have gone a lot farther, I think, than it did. The issues that I really had was the fear of the vampire for our main female character and her attraction to him. Now I understand there is going to be a little bit of like back and forth with your feelings, but it felt like her acceptance of him was so overwhelming in contrast to like her fears and phobias of it, as well as to the other members of the house, that it just started to feel a little drawn out and annoying at times. The musical that they were supposed to be in, I thought, based on kind of the blurb and what I had read about the book, I thought that was going to be a main focus, that there were going to be practices and rehearsals and other things. And I don't know what kind of theater program this is, but the theater director kind of leaves everybody to their own devices and does little check-ins, really. So there's not really any true practice going on stage. It's mostly these two characters kind of holed up in the attic room practicing a song they're supposed to write. And you really don't even hear much about the song. It really comes down to them practicing the fear and tolerance of one another. There is a little bit of a situation where she is immune to some of their paranormal abilities and they don't understand why, because obviously there is more to her than meets the eye. When you find out what it is, it's a little underwhelming in the way that it's written. I get what they were trying to go for, but in the way that it was carried out, didn't have a lot behind it for me to kind of like, wow, that's really kind of cool. It was just kind of like, oh. And then it's like towards the end, things just kind of fit into place where they needed to be without really any real tension. Things kind of were overcome very quickly. But there was a little bit of a cliffhanger, so it will be carried on in a follow-up book. I don't know if I'm going to go and do the follow-up, because while I wasn't really drawn in as much into the romantic elements of this story, the kind of side characters, the other characters in the house, the other guys in the house, were fun. They were fun in their own ways. And but that being said, we only got to know a handful. There's supposed to be I think like 13 guys living in this house, all with like different abilities. And she really only explores like maybe 7 of them are really featured in here. The other ones, like if they weren't even in the story, it wouldn't have made a difference really. So that was kind of like, I wanted to explore them more and their abilities more, and I felt like that could have been a little bit more. I also got really annoyed with the fact that this sorority group, for whatever reason, kept wanting to hassle her and mess with her in like these horrible, like mean girl ways, for somebody that really had only been in their presence like a few minutes. Like, so if there had been more of maybe a few butting heads like in classrooms or something to kind of perpetuate that tension that would have been there, I would have seen it a little bit like, oh, okay, these girls just don't like, you know, this type of thing, versus, okay, she signed up with you, you guys thought you could have this power struggle over her, she doesn't want to be there, she left within like 15-20 minutes of being there, like, why do you care so much? She's not like saying anything bad about the sorority, she's just like doing her own thing, so why do you guys really care about this girl? Like, there's nothing else really there to cause that kind of animosity and bullying. So it was interesting, but like I said, there is some bullying. There is an attempted essay scene, not very detailed. It ends very, very quickly, but there is that in there. There is a little bit of violence. There is spice to it, but it's very brief and probably tamer than a lot of the other books that are out there. It's not too graphic. It's more like your first time type situations, which is usually not something I'm into as well. I kind of stay away from the first time trope, because if the book's going to be spicy, it doesn't make it as believable for me, and it's just kind of awkward at, once you're older, it's really kind of awkward to be reading that. For me, at least, it just feels weird. But other than that, like I said, it had some interesting things. So if you are looking for like a college romance with, I would say, more mild spice, a bunch of different types of shifters or people with paranormal abilities, a little bit of Mean Girls, some funny ways of getting back at the Mean Girls, which is just, it's more joking fun of what I'd probably find of like kids doing, but it was an entertaining part of the book. And just some fun antics of what you would expect to have when you are the only girl that starts to be. Little intermission thing. Sorry to interrupt this, but my battery died on my camera, so we are going to film the rest of this using the good old phone so we can charge that and at least get this video done and out to you guys. So if it looks a little different, that is why. But getting back into our review of Beast, we were just about done. But basically what I was going to say is that it had a little bit of funness to it for the what you kind of expect if you are a young woman, college age, staying at a frat house with a bunch of guys that kind of take you on as their little sister, like at least a few of them. One does obviously get romantically involved, but for the other ones, it's kind of like that big brother energy, which is kind of fun and sweet and endearing in its way. So it does have some wonderful things as far as those go. But for me, I was just expecting more. I had a lot more questions of like why things were in the book that didn't really seem to be a focal point as much as they were presented. So that's why I ended up rating it a 2. Next up, we received an arc of this book that, honestly, this is our first 5-star of 2026, and it was everything. And that is Melodies of the Damned by Nikita Kherwan. This book was everything I needed to read at that moment. Basically, you have this world where you have humans, and then there is a supernatural fantasy side to it that are kind of beyond the veil, if you will. They're living, and they're living beyond the human borders. And you have in the human world, you have a lot of things that are kind of like starting to go wrong, like some crop failures, things like that. But meanwhile, in the castle with the royal family, everything's fine, everything's great, except for our lovely princess. I think it's Lyra is her name. I'm going to go with Lyra. But she is very much an abused princess. Like, she apparently has these abilities that make everybody kind of worried about her. She has been going through these sessions with one of the head priests that are, we'll just go with traumatic. Okay, we'll just go with that. And they're not going well. And the princess Lyra's basically on her way out. She feels betrayed by her family, even by her older brother, because he just kind of stands there and he doesn't really say anything because he doesn't want to do the conflict, but at the same time he witnesses her being abused and treated as this object. And at the beginning, there is a ball where she is going to be handed over in marriage to this really kind of skeezy guy, and without anywhere to turn, she basically decides she's going to join this kind of crucible of challenges, if you will, where volunteers are, and maybe not all of them are volunteers, they're considered sacrifices, and they are basically giving themselves over to the gods. And they do this by jumping off a cliff, basically, into this deep, I don't know if it was a lake or a part of the ocean, but it was a piece of water. and it's pitch black, and they have to basically swim across to this island where once they get there, they will go through training to be one of these kind of sacred guards. And once you go through this training, the gods will bestow a power upon you if they favor you. And so Lyra's like, I'm going to do it because I don't want to marry this guy. I don't want to keep being treated the way that I am. And once I'm out of my father's clutches, once I get to this island, then he can't touch me anymore and my life is my own. And should she die in the process because there's supposed to be this creature in the lake, well, then she doesn't have to go through the pain and everything of what she's been going through anymore. So for her, it's a win-win. While she's in line, she kind of makes friends with two people. There's a girl who reminds me a lot of, I think it's Rhiannon from Fourth Wing, like reminds me personality-wise a lot like her. And then you have Riven. And Riven, good looking, flirty. He to me is like mixing the looks and the appeal of Xaden with the humor and cheesiness and flirtiness of like Riddick from Fourth Wing. So there's a lot of elements that felt like kind of familiar with that to me. But what I liked is that these are normal people. They don't have any abilities yet, and they're going through this. So the fights that they're doing, the training that they're going through, they are just normal people doing it at this point in time. So needless to say, Lyra makes it to the island and she starts uncovering these abilities that she had, which seem very much in link to the possibility of siren magic, which has been outlawed in this world because of this myth and history that's kind of gone on. And so anybody that usually shows these traits is usually killed. So you have this element going on. One of the trainers that is at this island has a link to Lyra in a little bit of the romantic sense. So there is at some points what feels like a little bit of a love triangle, but on top of all this training, you have rumors that the Commander of Death is writing again, and that he's seeking to like fight the humans and just kind of take over. And once there are some battles, you have Lyra getting taken by the Commander of Death, and he is not who he seems. He is soulless, and there are some links between him and Lyra that she might not be aware of. And it's just kind of what her role is in this world and what these myths are and how everything's connected and how there are love triangles and there are just everything. Like it just has so much. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. I loved Riven so much. So much. He is fun and flirty and gorgeous and everything. And yes, new book boyfriend. And I do just adored him. I liked Lyra in the sense that after everything that she's been through, there are parts to her that do kind of fall into, I would say, like a depression, and one that she's kind of fearless in a sense of self-harm. Like she doesn't hurt herself, but she's not unwilling to throw herself into danger, risking her life because of all the things she's gone through. She's like, well, if it happens, I won't be in pain anymore. If it happens, this won't be whatever anymore. So she doesn't really see, I want to say, like value in herself, which is, it's sad, but at the same time, you see this hopefulness in her and this inner strength for her that she keeps pushing in herself, which I really kind of respected and just I loved about her. Solus is kind of an interesting character too. There is a lot more calm to him than the, I would say, the shadow daddy ruthlessness that you would expect. So it was just a really, really fun read. I loved the world. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline that was going on. It does leave off on a cliffhanger, so I cannot wait for book 2 because I'm not gonna lie, I thought this book was going to go in a completely different direction, which usually I can kind of be like, okay, I see where they're going. I think this is going to happen. And most times I'm right. And it's just kind of watching it unfold and seeing how it does that. This one I thought that I was so smart because I was like, oh my gosh, this clue here and this clue here and this clue here. I can't wait. This is what it is. This is what it is. And so when I got to the end and that was not what it was, and what it was like having audible moments for me while reading this book. It was a lot of, oh my gosh, lots of audible reactions to this book that just I was not expecting. I get it. I'm not going to give anything away because you have to read it. This, to me, I am making the bold prediction that this is going to be one of the best reads of 2026 for a lot of people. Like I said, I had the ARC, so I had the special honor and privilege of getting my hands on it before everybody else. But I have already been recommending it to people as what I think is going to be rated in a lot of people's top 10s of 2026. And I really recommend it. If you like Fourth Wing, if you like Dire Bound, it has those elements in there of those kind of competitions, of those relationships, the powers, everything, the tension. It is very reminiscent of those. So if you like those books, you are really going to love this. This is a little bit of a darker world, even a little bit darker than Dire Bound, because I know that Dire Bound was a little bit darker than Fourth Wing to me, at least. It cuts right into the action, right into the plot right away. Whereas I know things like Fourth Wing, for me, I had to wait to like almost page 200 before the story really took off for me. This one takes off right from the beginning, but it falls into what I think could be the potential fandom for like Fourth Wing and Dire Bound. That is my bold prediction for this book, but highly recommend. It came out on Valentine's Day, so it's already out. All of these books are already out. But Melodies of the Damned by Nikita Kron, highly recommend. Put it on your list. So with that, we went ahead and we got to our third book, which was another ARC. Once again, this was someone actually reached out to me, so I felt very honored that somebody reached out to me because I'm not as big as other booktubers and book reviewers, so I felt very honored and grateful for that opportunity. But this one was The Immortal's Mark by KLK. This one was really interesting. I ended up giving this one 3 stars because there were a few things that I had questions about, but the writing was really fun for me. It's written in a way that the best way to describe it is that it's almost like diary entries, as if they're writing the diary entry as you're reading it. And you're hearing all of the characters' inner thoughts as the story's going on from a dual POV standpoint, which was just a lot of fun. You have our main female character who is basically an immortal assassin. She's died, I think, like 600 and something times. She's like 800 something years old. She has no idea why she is immortal. She considers it a curse. And she's always on the run. So she gets this assignment to basically go in and take care of the current emperor, who is kind of called the Dragon Emperor. There is a myth that a dragon will choose the emperor by his fire, and if the emperor survives the flames, he will be the emperor, basically, or the candidate survives the flames, he'll be the emperor. And so she goes and she does her attempt, and it fails. And rather than be executed, which honestly for her wouldn't really do anything, the emperor takes a curiosity in her, and he does witness her basically die at some point and come back, and he's intrigued by this, and he thinks there's more to her than meets the eye. So he's also extremely smart, and he realizes that while she might have been the instrument in his possible demise, she was being paid by somebody else. And so he now enlists her to help him figure out who it was that hired her for the job. And while doing that, she kind of becomes his shadow, and it becomes a very relationship focused book where there are these kind of late night walks and discussions in a garden that contemplate kind of their lives and what they've been through and their thoughts on things. And there's some flirting. And what I love so much is the dragon lives in a cave, but he communicates telepathically with the emperor. And so while the emperor is talking, and you're hearing his thoughts, you're also getting the dragon's thoughts. And the dragon's commentary is just everything. It was probably, for me, it was my most favorite thing about the book was this dragon Tianlong. And it's because for me, the dragon, everything the dragon says and thinks is really what I was thinking reading the book. So his commentary on them as a couple or as being trying to be romantic with one another is everything that was going through my head when things felt like they were going long, and his commentary, it just fits so well. So I really, really loved the dragon. He was just great. Which, if you have watched my channel, you know that funny animal sidekicks and cute animal sidekicks just get me. Like, they are everything to me. But I really, really loved the dragon. I loved the fact that you did get this sense of truly what a relationship would be like for someone who is immortal and why they might not want to be in a relationship, and for somebody who is in power like an emperor, and what the expectations would be on, and the understanding that they come with on both sides, the empathy that they have. It was very, very sweet. Reasons why I ended up giving it 3 stars was that they go on a trip, or I should say they kind of run away to discover something. And that aspect started to feel really stretched out and really long. And I don't think that it needed to be that long for how it was written. There were other things while on that journey that I felt we needed a little bit of a shift away from the relationship being the focus, and the focus being shifted back to the storyline and what they were trying to uncover. Plot wise, like there could have been a little bit more clues, a little bit more discussions with people on their travels, because you never really hear too much about what they're learning along their travels. It's just, oh, okay, well, we learned we got to go here and then we're going here. And it's, so that kind of took away from it, as well as when they're trying to figure out the points to get to that travel. It really felt a little boring on that end, because once again, the shift of this book's focus on the relationship really seeming to be the main thing. Whereas there were times where I feel like there needed to be more of a balance between the relationship and them trying to uncover this plan, this plot, who was against the emperor. I felt there needed to be a little bit more in there. Some of the people that worked in the courts, they weren't, you would hear a little bit about them, like you heard more about them than interacted with them. And I wanted a little bit more of the interaction, because it seems so separate, and everybody seems so wary of our main female character, that when a certain time comes, all of a sudden they're like on her side, which just felt kind of random to me. Like I wanted to see that slower transition of trust between them, because obviously they're so against her in the beginning because they know she tried to do away with their emperor, whereas now towards the end they're very much loving her, cheering her on as if she's part of the family. But you don't see so much of that transition with these characters because of the focus being so much on the relationship. But it was very interesting. So I don't know if this is a standalone or not. It could be, but there are things that they could leave where it might not be. So if they wanted to eventually do a sequel to it, I could see how it could be done. But the underlying plot that happened as well, that started to move the storyline, I felt that the way that it happened wasn't touched upon as much. Like there were some questions as to why the things were happening that they were. And when it wrapped up, I mean, it was predictable in the way that it went towards the end. Like you could understand, oh, okay, I know what this is. I know why this happened. I know, that you figured it out. It was pretty just simple in that way. But if you are looking for something that is a simplistic storyline with a heavy focus on a kind of slow burn romance, that's very innocent. There is a spice scene. It's not fade to black, but it's very, very innocent and gentle in the way that it's done. It's not graphic at all. Once again, first times type thing, which I mean, I get it, but I also am like, okay. But it wasn't very detailed. So it's just like a little bit more than your fade to black scene, because it doesn't just be like, and then the next day. There is talk about it, but it's mostly about the feelings going on while in that situation than the actual physicality of it. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more sweet, and filled with empathy, understanding, just kind of more of an innocent, sweet love, despite these characters being ones with a lot of power, essentially, then I would recommend this book. And if you like talking dragons and things like that have these funny little one-liners and zingers and thoughts, then I do recommend it as well. So as far as any of these books fulfilling prompts, I hadn't really gone through that yet, so they might. I do know that I was going to use Beast for the Frostbitten Trials for our Romanceopoly, which was basically the events going on at the college of sorts. And this was for the Winter Olympics League, the figure skating, if you will, in honor of the Winter Olympics for the Frostbitten Trials. And that was to do the Ice Gauntlet, which is a paranormal Frostfang coalition versus fantasy Winterborn Court at Glacium Arena is the event. And what that really is to read a paranormal romance with one character that harbors a dangerous secret or hidden power. And I felt that our female main character, because nobody really understands what or who she is, not even herself, I felt that was very hidden even from her. So, and there is one character who does know, but they keep it a secret even from our female main character in that. So I felt that was very much for that story. As far as Melodies of the Damned or the Immortals Mark, I would have to look through and see kind of where I am, because I do have other books that I'm trying to do for other trials. So kind of seeing where this all fits in. So stay tuned. I will probably cover that at some point, maybe a check-in to see. So I do have to go through that. But at least one more for Romanceopoly as well. So we are really on our good way for that. However, none of these fulfilled any prompts for our fantasy bingo. Once again, I'd have to look through. I don't think any of them were for romance bingo as well, because we kind of have our own T.B.R. for that. So not a lot of headway. And of course, now that we are in March, we are in the crunch of getting as much as we can done for our fantasy bingo and seeing if we can, at this point, I'm just trying to get just a bingo line instead of a blackout, and we'll see how it goes. But that was basically it for February. So not a lot of books, but at least we got our first 5 stars. So I'm so happy for that. I will take it. And like I said, we are on the road to recovery. So that is good as well. So let me know how your guys' February went. If you read more than 3 books, if you had a winter break with your kiddos, hopefully it was everything. Hopefully you guys were not sick. Hopefully all the colds and flus and everything are pretty much out. And for those of you that are fellow allergy sufferers, may your allergy medicines be well stocked for you. And hopefully it will be a mild allergy season for us all. But I am sending you guys the best of warm wishes. May the weather start to warm up for you. I know there was a few snowstorms as well, so I hope that everything is going well for those that were affected by snowstorms. Hopefully all of that gets cleared up, and hopefully your power and everything stayed on too, and you guys were able to stay warm. That is a big one. But yeah, so hopefully we are getting out of winter, we are getting into spring and all that brings for us. And then before we know it, summer's going to be here. It's just going so quickly. But I hope you guys are well. So stay warm, stay cool, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you guys in the next video.